This series, called Set the Record Straight, was recorded live from question and answer classes given by the Supreme Grand Master Naya Malachi Zadok York El, known to us as Maku, Chief Black Eagle of the United Nuwaubian Nation of Moors, Yamasee Native American Washita Mound Builders. Now listen with an open heart and mind to the dynamic teachings from our Supreme Grand Master Naya Malachi Zadok York El, the voice of truth, who sets the record straight.
The government put in place a period called the period of Indigenous people, and that started in 1992, and it ends in the year 2000. And a lot of people don't even know that because they only passed it, to certain people. Now, the problem is the false promise of 40 acres and a mule was done before we populated to the point where if they gave us 40 acres, there'd be no more acreage. And they don't have that many mules. So what they do is, if you are a nation of people, not when you say we're a nation of 5% or we're a nation of Islam, that's a religious nation that has nothing to do with setting up your government as Native Americans. You follow what I'm saying? So when you go before Washington that links into the international state, there's a government other than the government of this country, all right, where the League of Nations was set up. The League of Nations preceded the United Nations. And when the United Nations was set up, the League of Nations of countries have said, I just don't want to be a part of that. I'm not interested in trying to control everybody's mind. This is what the so-called New World Order is about, trying to get everybody under one type of mentality. And we as Native Americans are not interested in your form of government. I respect your form of government for you, but it doesn't apply to me. For instance, if it tells me that I'm not allowed to use usury, which means I can't make a profit, how can I invest and survive when Islam tells me I can't make a profit? So it is wise for Muslims to live in Muslim countries where the Sharia, the fiqh, the laws that surround them work for them. So we as Native Americans, we have our own laws. We always have. And they came here where we were, your father, took our constitution, thanks to the Iroquois who gave it to them, rewrote it and butchered us up. I'll get to your question now, because I just want to show you the picture. So what happens is, when you become wise enough to stand up and rectify all of their errors, their greatest fear is you making this everybody's problem. They're not interested in everybody. But if the people in Louisiana, under the Empress of the Washita, petition and they get it, and the people of the Shoshone, the Shinnecock petitioned, and several other tribes petitioned, and they got it. It's the tribes that won't petition, and it's not a plea, and it's not a request, it's a statement that the whole world knows and recognizes. So they're basically saying, if you want your indigenousness, just don't go around putting signs up to wake up every dumb nigger, or every dumb Caucasian, or every dumb Latino, and tell them, today you can become nation. And they all went in here just because they don't want to pay tax, or just because, and they're mad at the government. I'm not mad at America. America's mine. How can I be mad at it? You know what I'm saying? And we've been made psychologically to get mad at the country as if, you know what I'm saying, we're mad at the people. The country is not a people. The country is made up of people. And when we go back and start doing some research, we find out that the oldest faces found here are the Olmecs. And that the root of Olmec is El Melek. Right? When they get into, you go back to the language that the people, when you say the word Moor, don't get Moorish Science Temple of America and Moroccan Moors mixed up with Morenos, a term that the Latins use to describe the Olmecs. You follow what I'm trying to say? So what she was saying is, you don't go around telling everybody, see, I'm a this, and you cause them to have to enact new laws. And they will put a law into effect knowing it's unconstitutional. You with me? Yeah. And then, after everybody adjusts to that law, then they'll come back in, remove it, and don't give it as much public as they did. For instance, the Brady Law is unconstitutional. The Constitution says you have the right to bear arms. It doesn't say you have the right to get an AK-47 and shoot people. It says you have a right to bear arms to protect your family. We have deers that live here, you follow that? That will attack you. Most people don't know that more people get killed by deers than car accidents. Because everybody's under the illusion that deers are Bambi. So they walk up to the deer and the deer literally whips you. But most city folk don't have no idea of the dangers of living in the woods. So you do need weapons to defend yourself. You don't need it in New York City or in Atlanta. Well, I guess you do. Well, there's a different kind of deer walking around New York City and Atlanta. He just doesn't have antlers. He has an attitude. But actually, the Brady Law was torn down as of today. It's no longer in effect. Now think about that. When they passed it, they made us all hear it and know it. And if I went to buy a gun, I had to wait 6 days in a total investigation. But today, they introduced it that it's been pulled back, and they're not talking about it all over the place. Now the law to buy a gun is no longer in effect when they got them interviewed or have to go check it to the computer. Did they make that a big stink? No. See, that's the game they use. You have a right to petition a law against the Constitution, against anything, not you, anybody in this country. And they will consider that law and sometimes preemptively send that law through because it's best for the people for the moment. But then they have to come back when people who are strict to the Constitution say, well, according to such and such a Constitution, Article so-and-so, amending so-and-so and such, you don't have that right. And they go, okay, you just back off and try something else. You have the right to tear up the flag, you know.
True.
You do have the right to tear up the flag. You don't have the right to burn it or spit on it. You know why you have a right to tear up the flag? Because the flag, if it becomes desecrated, dirty, or abused, then rather than have a raggedy, dirty flag flying, you have the right to take it down and destroy it. But you don't have the right to abuse the American flag, which is not the American flag, by the way. The red, white, and blue flag is not the American flag. Do you know that? The American flag is blue and white, and the lines are not horizontal, they're vertical. And in the upper left-hand corner is a box, and it has the Coast Guard symbol. That is the real American flag, and if you go research it, you'll find that that's called the peacetime flag. This flag flew during a war, and because this flag survived till the morning, and that's in an anthem that you say, you know what I'm talking about? What is it? Star Spangled Banner. That's when the war flag went into effect. That is not the flag of peace. That's the flag of war. And when they add the gold trimming on it, it becomes martial or strictly military. And should be in any courtroom you go into because you are a product of abuse by way of kidnapping. Not a slavery. You cannot be a slave because you're not Slavic. The word Slavic is the word slave. And there were Slavics who were enslaved. But there's no Slavics in this pavilion today. You understand? So you can't be a slave. So now, once we eliminate the use of the word slave, I ask again, so what was that situation that took place in the 14th, 15th, and 16th century? I need a new name for it, because slave does not apply to me. Bondage is a biblical term. And you separate religion from state, and I'm dealing with a state situation, so I'm not interested in the Bible in the 400 years or 430 years. That's religious rhetoric and has nothing to do with government, so bondage goes out the door. What did you do to me? Now, and let me get something straight, because most of you don't consider Portuguese white people. You follow that? You don't. You consider Portuguese, correct? And then you're mad at blonde-haired, blue-eyed people all the time. There's no history. Get this in your mind, please. There's no history, no facts ever of blonde-haired, blue-eyed people ever doing anything to you. But some man pushed blonde-haired, blue-eyed early in the 30s, and from then on, every time you're a white, blue, blonde-haired, blue-eyed devil. The Portuguese do not have blonde hair and blue eyes. True. Neither did John Hawkins. Neither did Prince Henry, the navigator. And neither did all of those people in Zanzibar who were Muslims, who were dark like you, who sold you. You are mad without a reason. And that is to get you off balance, to make you stop thinking, get you mad at another race, focus your attention in the wrong direction. All white people, there's all white. It's very convenient when you're insecure because you don't want to stay in school and you want to have a reason or a justification for your own failures because you want to go party or hang out in a cafeteria, you know what I'm saying, or chase the girls or listen to music or do something, something that's worthless. So you have to justify when you didn't succeed. So you say, well, that's because there ain't no equal opportunity here. That's because the white man did this to me. And that ain't real. Otherwise, there'd be no Colin Powell. He had to work his way up there, didn't he? If he got up to the point where he could become the most sophisticated officer in the military in this country, don't tell me there's no place for you. Now, Clarence Thomas is a sellout. He had to get there to become the sellout. Wake up. So how did he get there? So why not get there and not be the sellout? Wouldn't that be a heck of a lot easier than standing back there talking about what he did wrong? So that's all part of a plot that we, as Nuwaubians, are going to change. See, they never heard the word Nuwaubian before. And that's what's important. Because had they heard the word Nuwaubian before, they wouldn't have to wait to ask you what does it apply to. You understand what I'm saying? When they hear Nuwaubian, they say to you, what is that? What's your religion? What do you all believe? And they want you to give them a dialogue. Well, God did this, or revolution this, or anti-government this, so that they can immediately classify you. Oh, I got it. You're a religious kind of guy. So what do you believe in? You believe in God? And when they throw out the word God, they want you to either say, no, I don't believe in God, I believe in Allah. I say, okay, Muslim. No, I don't believe in no God, I believe in Jehovah. Oh, Jehovah's Witness. No, I don't believe in no God, I believe in Yahweh. Oh, I see, Israelite. No, I don't believe in no. They're waiting for that so that they can classify you. When you say Anu, they go, who? And who? Who's that? Who's Anu? So you go back to Samaria, and because they never got a good grasp on Sumerian doctrine, they go, I don't understand. You say, what's Anu? You say, well, Anu, the Most High. Oh, the Most High God? No. So when you say the Most High God, oh, I see, okay. It's God, it's a religious thing, all right. The reason why the elders gave you a word that they didn't know is because they're not supposed to know unless they ask you. And now the problem comes in with when they ask you, how do you answer? Are you going to answer correctly? Or are you going to go off because you're still mad because of the Islamic influence and the revolutionary of the 60s, so you still want to blame everything on white people? So are you going to go off, well, we the Nuwaubian more than we us black folks are 9 people, you're going to do all that, that ignorant, you know what I'm saying? Or are you going to get out there, your father, understand your teachers and tell people, you know what I'm saying? We are an answer to your problem. You understand? You look in this room, like I said, this hip-hop is sitting up in this room that gave up hip-hop, not the music, but the culture, to find their way to Nuwaubian for a better thing. You know what I'm saying? And of course, people are not going to like you. I keep telling you this is very important. Muslims are going to hate me. Why? Because their whole objective is to make as many people Muslims as they can. They're so busy calling America the beast, talking about the New World Order, American Shaitan. They're doing the exact same thing. They want everybody to be Muslim. So if you want everybody to be Muslim, aren't you a New World Order also? If you want everybody to be Jehovah's Witness, aren't you just as much as a problem as the Illuminati, as you say, or any other group that's trying to make everybody what they are? I don't advocate love everybody. That's an illusion, and it causes confusion, and it just doesn't work. You can love and you can hate. That's balance. You like and you dislike. That's balance. You don't drink all hot liquids, and you don't drink all cold liquids. There's a time to drink hot liquids, and there's a time to drink cold liquids. There's a time to love, and there's a time to hate. God hates. If you got to be religious, if he didn't hate, he wouldn't have blew up them cities. You have to blow up a whole city and kill thousands of people, you can't like them. So the answer is, you got to go forth right and exact. You know what I'm saying? Get rid of the crap. because the stats was holding everybody back. You follow? Anybody else got a question? Yeah. Talk to me.
My question is, he's talking about the
Third article, right?
taxes.
No, not yet. When you speak about judges, the reason why taxes appears to be there is because you may not believe it, but if you're my boss, I can't judge you. You understand? Let me say that again. If I pay your salary and you work for me, how can you judge me? So there are judges in this country that are on salary based on the tax. And there are judges in this country that are not on salary based on Federal Reserve. You understand? Third article judges in the first book that I gave you, that blue one, if you read it, you'll find out they say a third article judge is called in when a habeas corpus is written up, which is referred to as a writ. That means when the court went into session and everything that was supposed to be said and done was supposed to be done in order, and that's why there's a gavel there. Now a judge has a gavel sitting up on his desk. That's like the whistle on the tennis court. He goes, and the game starts. You with me?
Yes, sir.
That judge goes, bam! Court is now in session. In other words, let the game go. That's what a court is. A court is a place where games are played. And only people who are smart enough to become umpires or refs know the real rules of the game. The person that walks up, how many of y'all people bowl? How many of y'all people went bowling the first time with a relative and just started throwing the ball all down in the gutter, every place, and a couple of times had the nerve to get strikes?
Yeah.
But then, when someone said to you, whoa, that's not how you're supposed to bowl. You're supposed to put 3 fingers in, hold it around over here, see them dots over there, take 3 steps, get your foot balanced, and hold, don't let the ball swing, it's gonna go into New York, or go, ready? And well, and they gave you, by the time they gave you all that stuff, you couldn't get the ball down the lane. You was pulling balls going backwards and stuff. Right? The person who knows the game is the person who's umpiring the game. You understand? The guy who's sitting on the side of the tennis court like this, watching what's happening, he knows the rules and regulations of the game. And if you have any sense at all, before you get on the tennis court, you'd become a judge. Why would you become a judge? Because you know what they feel. You know what they're thinking. You know when they're going to make a call. You know when the player intimidates them and gets them mad. Do you know anytime you walk into a court in this country without a suit and a tie on, you have already violated the law? There is a law that you come to the court or the game in tennis shorts. Did you know that?
Yes, sir.
That you're supposed to wear a dark suit, a white shirt, and a striped white and blue tie when you go to court? That's the law of the court. So when you go in there thinking that you're doing something by going there doing your thing, you start off with a mark against you because you are out of uniform for a court proceedings. And the judge usually looks at you and basically says that. He just goes, you know what I'm saying? And then you look like, then you say to your man, oh man, we ain't got a chance. Like it's his fault. Man, we ain't got a chance. Yeah. Then you got the fool who thinks he's a Freemason, and somebody done told him some silly rituals. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's walking down and he does like this. And the judge was thinking about giving him 1 year. He did this. He just said, three years. The judge thought you were trying to tell him something. There's a system, and we are on the outside of that system. And this is why we keep blaming everybody for everything that happens to us. Because we're on the outside, we won't get involved. I'm not telling you to become no politician. I don't care what party you vote for, Democrat, Republic, is your business. But know the law that you live under. So you know your rights if you are going to subscribe to that principle. But we as Native Americans, indigenous people of this land, whether you call yourself a Nubian, a Hebrew, a Muslim, all those are religious, nice, slick names. When you go down to your nationality, You follow? It is important for you to investigate every time that word is used. If they say morenos, negra, whatever term they use when they was writing that record, you should be studying that because it applies to you. And you find out that most of the things that happen to you, you let happen because you don't know the law. You follow what I'm saying? So you are entitled to a third article judge if you acknowledge yourself as not a 13 but a 14th Amendment person. If you're a 13th Amendment person, you keep using that 13th Amendment gave me my rights. The rights you're talking about is the Emancipation Proclamation for the freeing of slaves. Hello?
Hello.
No Slavics in here. No slaves. So the 13th Amendment does not apply to you. Abraham Lincoln was under pressure. That's why he signed it from foreign governments that was going to attack him because of their Moors, because of the Malians that was in the country that were not supposed to be taken into bondage. And if you read the documents, you will find there was articles that had a group of people called the Watchmen. The Watchmen broke off from the police department. Sound familiar? What does it sound like? A new paramilitary group that breaks away from the police department and does their own law?
Militia.
Not militia. Militia, believe it or not, is legal. And I'll talk to you about it if you bring it up again. Huh? Red Dogs. These new, SWAT.
SWAT team. Red Dog. Yeah.
Listen,
The police watching.
I'm going to name something.
Not
All right?
vigilante.
What is alcohol? An intoxicant substance or medicine used for cure, a etheric substance. Right? Okay. A, T, F. What does that abbreviate? All right. Why, if there's a hold-up at a convenience store, is the ATF there? Are they there to count the amount of alcohol that's being stolen? Are they there because someone got a firearm, in fact, when it's legal? Why are they there? Because they're a paramilitary group. Put up a fake society that goes off and does things that the government can apologize for. Like Waco. They say, oh, wow. They said, oh, we got misinformation. We heard, go ahead and burn the place up. And someone said, go ahead and go home. Forget it. But we didn't hear that. You know, Janet Reno was saying we didn't hear that. She sent the word down to burn the people up when the word was really go home, forget it. It's just a religious group. And like I said last night, if they're a religious group, they're separate from state. So David Koresh can call himself anything he wants. He can call himself an ice cream sandwich. That is his prerogative if he's a religious person. It's only when it has nothing to do with state. So these groups are set up to try to cause chaos, to intimidate. But if you recognize or fall under that 13th Amendment or under their laws, then you are subject to that abuse. If not, you fall under a group of people called Moors, French Moor, Morenos. You follow that? This is being used simply because it's on paper. It's on treaties. It's on documents. Morocco, Mauritania, the French version of it and the Latin word of it. You follow? Let's set the record straight. Make that your first Bible. I don't mean in a religious kind of sense. Read this book and really get into what I'm saying. And go back and read that blue book and Constitution and study it the way you study books that you like when you want to go out and bust people up and look heavy. This is that book? This book here is another level of information for you. You follow? It gives you the documents. It talks about the Watchmen, who put that society together, what the Watchmen were doing under the name Sears and Roebuck, believe it or not, created a catalog to sell people. With me? Now, they had to put a group of men together that was going around kidnapping stray morenos and mixing them in with the negra that was already in captivity. The ones that came from Africa, they were calling negra. The ones that mixed with the Africans and the Moors became known as negra morenos or morenos negra, or with the Moorish Science Temple says it's black or more. If you read, you hear that. It's saying black twice. That's any mixture. You follow that? And then you had the Moors. Now, in the petitions, and you read in that book, it says no mulattoes are allowed. Whenever you hear the word mulatto, step back because Arabs are involved, because mulatto is an Arabic word, moled. It deals with the word for birth. You understand? And when the petition was made with George Washington for Moors who were navigators at the time, just not all of them were navigators, those Moors that were navigators, to come here to circle America with a fleet, this is in the book, research it, they said don't send any mulattoes, meaning we don't want to get the light-skinned Moors mixed up with the dark-skinned Moors. You follow? So the Moroccans you see today were not coming. Only, and I have a picture of the military in there, and you'll see them in France marching, the whole fleet that came. They're in there. You follow? But because they look like the Malians who had sailed here, Can, Mansa Musa, and them before, they look the same. Just like in this room, when I go to Trinidad, or you go to Trinidad, or you go to Jamaica, or you go to Puerto Rico, you can blend right in, you know. The only thing that might distinguish you is you might start speaking Spanish or not speaking Spanish versus say, well, where you from? You follow what I'm saying? This is done. Or any person who's from Puerto Rico could go to Morocco and blend right in, and somebody starts speaking to them in Arabic, and they'll go, don't speak Arabic, where you from? And they say, I'm from, Cuba or Mexico. And they'll go, oh. They won't know. It was a melting pot. This was convenient. When selling people became profitable, you follow? And I ran out of fresh produce, meaning I started getting deformed slaves who were being battered and beaten in the passageway from Africa here. You see, they were deformed, broken arms, broken limbs, sick. Now, when you go into a vegetable store and you want to pick out tomatoes, do you reach for the bad tomatoes or the good ones? Good ones. Usually now, this is amazing. If you go into a large store, they have the good tomatoes here and the bad ones right here. They have different grades of tomatoes. These are the ones that are a little soft for y'all who want to spend a little bit of money. And these are good tomatoes. And you can reach in the bad ones every now and then and go, well, shoot. Here's a good tomato. And think you did something. Well, what happened is, when through the passage and the abuse, many of the slaves were deformed or beat up mainly. Many of those kidnappees were abused. What they do? The watchmen were sent out as watchmen, and they watched the Moors at any gathering you had. And they saw you had nobility. You walked around with your fez on. This here one, you wore the tarbush to all noble events. You wore the fez daily. You follow that? And usually in the crimson color. And they would go there, and they would see the ones with Almac or what they refer to as Malian or Uganda or Timbuktu features, and they go, you, and they're writing this down with their catalog. And what would they do then is kidnap you, take away everything from you, and put you amongst the slaves, imprison you, abuse you to a point, not to the point of damage, and then put you on the slave block. I have to use slave block here because that's what they called it. And sold you. And then what happened is it became mixed up. And this is why if you look around, you see every kind of feature that you can think of. There's nobody here that can say, well, I personally come from this part of Africa, in this island, in this spot. You don't know. If you look at people from Puerto Rico and you say, who is a Puerto Rican? A real Puerto Rican stand up. Or everybody will stand up, and we're not talking about skin color, we're not talking about hair texture, we're talking about nose shape, lip shape, eye shape, cheekbone, chin shape, forehead shape. They all be the same color. You can put people in an environment long enough, everybody become the same color. But the characteristics are different. And that tells you that different tribes have been mixing together. If you go to Africa, you go into Sudan, you don't see one, so why, if everybody there is Sudanese, then everybody should look the same. Why does everybody look different? Why is all these different features, different hair textures? Because of the melting. So they knew that. So they was able to mix the slaves and mix the kidnappees and mix the slaves and the migrants who came on their own. That's why there's a 13th and 14th Amendment citizen. You understand me? And 14th Amendment citizens have a second type of citizenship. They came here and they're really sovereign people. And they just got taken and mixed in. It doesn't mean that the people of Africa don't have no rights. They also have their rights because they came here before anybody came here. They walked across here before there was continental drift. They just came from Uganda and settled here and became known as Almacs because Almac means rubber people. And they brought the tree, the plant of rubber, because they use it in their rituals. Huh? You did. So now you light-skinned, your wavy head, your curly head, your long nose, your wide nose, your dark skin, and you're divided against yourself. If in your soul, in your spirit, there's a desire to become conscious, then the outer manifestation of your appearance has nothing whatsoever to do with it. Because when I play drums, I'm looking at people darker than me with no rhythm. Walk up on that stage with no rhythm. And they got the nerve to say, white people ain't got no soul. I'm like, homeboy here, you know what I'm saying? He's bordering on match moose. He's not even black no more. This nigga is bow-lass. And he can't play the drum. And then some other guy comes up here who's light-skinned, with straight hair, you understand? And gets on the drum, and all of y'all are going, all right. Why are you saying all right? Because you was looking at the brother who's light-skinned to get up there and not have a rhythm, and the brother who's dark-skinned to get up there and have a rhythm, but genes played a trick on you. It don't mean a thing anymore. It's over. So cut the crap and form your own nation where you control the things that happen to you. You have that right. If they want to go religious, you say you have that God-given right that makes them feel better. Now we always have to ask whose God are they talking about? They got so many of them. You understand? Yes.
Yes, my question is how can the police tell you what's a policeman in regard to the Constitution?
Okay. First of all and foremost, once you become a part of an indigenous nation, they have what's called an Interpol. That's called the International Police Department. That's the only ones that can touch you. However, if you violate a federal law, then you go into international jurisdiction. And let me tell you how ugly that could get. You could join in the United Nuwapian Nation of Moors and then go out and sell drugs. If you get busted, instead of you going to prison and doing time, you go into a place where people have no nationality and you spend the rest of your life there. Because no country will claim you, so you can't be judged, and you can't be judged without a nationality, because you have to have rights to have a nationality. And remember, they ask you, what? Do you know your rights? How do you know they say that? Because they say you have the right to remain silent. When they make that statement, they're assuming that you know your rights, something you didn't study. But they say you have the right to remain silent. You go, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney. If you can't afford one, court will supply you with one. Then they say to you, do you understand? What do you say? That's when you violate your own rights. Because the first statement was, you have a right to remain silent. When you answer, I do, you gave up your rights. When you walk into their domain and ask for a free telephone call, you are now indebted to the state. Because you're in their department, using their phone, so they're no longer your boss. When they ask you, they don't ask you, are you guilty or not guilty? They ask you, what is your plea? Plead to me. And once you plead to him, you are no longer his boss by virtue of the fact that you pay tax that puts him in there, but you become the subject. You say, I don't plead. I have an explanation. And then you proceed with your rights. Now, if you are wrong, nobody can help you. Not even us. If you went out and transported drugs across the state line, there's nothing we could do, because if you was a foreigner that came to this country and did that, the same thing would happen to you. You'd be in violation of the law. And nobody, your government can't help you. If you run down some woman on the street with your car because you are intoxicated, right? There's nothing I can do to help you. No one can do to help you. That's international law. You follow? So it won't mean nothing if you got a bunch of federal offenses up on your back. It won't mean a thing. All right? You will not be able to succeed as a nation as long as you allow people in the nation that intend to go out and violate the laws of the country in which you're living. If you intend to go out and do bad things, don't come join the nation and try to destroy it for all of us who made up our mind that we have no intention of violating the law. We want to respect the law of the government under which we live. We don't want to be classified as a religion, and that's why we said we are a fraternity. Because the moment you become religious, you become a cult. If you're not what they call a standard American religion. So we said we're not a religion. We still became a cult. But that means the fraternity of firemen, the fraternity of doctors, the Masonic Lodge, Knights of Columbus, Elks, Eastern Stars, all the rest of them is also a cult. So if we stay under the umbrella of fraternity, it's easy for them to justify sending out these paramilitary groups to hurt you. Do you understand? And if you're not violating the law and you're doing everything according to our family guidebook, trying your best, there's no reason for you to encounter police. If you're driving where it says 55 miles an hour, then do 55 miles an hour. You follow what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with drinking a little beer. Just don't get drunk. Because when you get drunk, what could happen? You lose control. The bear controls you, and you might go do something that you're very sorry for. We want a society that does not intentionally violate the law. Why did I say intentionally? Because I know a lot of Arabs don't like me because I was born a Muslim. I know a lot of Muslim niggers don't like me because their Arab slave master said don't like me. Just because of that. They don't know me as their brother or their friend. And Egypt got their country, or got our country. They got their religion. They got their stuff. But they're mad because I'm over here. And let's assume that I said this year we're going to Egypt and we're going to spend a 4-day vacation in Egypt. Means we got to fly out of Kennedy or whatever airport, meet in Heathrow in London, transfer to another plane and fly into Egypt. That's how much money? A whole lot. That's a good word, for a good number too. A lot. Then we got to stay in hotels. How much money? A lot. Then we got to eat in restaurants. And we must drink mineral water or we might catch a number of diseases. Because you know that, right? How much is that?
A lot.
Then we got to get tour buses to take us to the pyramids and pay them. You with me? So now we want to touch base with Egypt, but when I get into Egypt, because I'm not a Muslim any longer, I got to worry about Muslims saying, we don't want y'all here, because you know they tried to kill Dr. Ben, you know. The Muslims tried to kill Dr. Ben. They had to cancel their trip to Egypt. That's why we cancel ours, because they don't want you coming over there to visit the pyramids, because it predates their belief. You follow that? And because of that, they don't want you there. And anybody that advocates it, they think it's justified. They think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them it's all right to kill anybody who don't believe what they believe. They're making Allah a party to their weaknesses. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-aliyu. He's al-alimu. He knows everything and he's above all things. He don't need you going out killing people for him. He makes rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes. No doubt about it. I'm saying that if a Muslim was a Muslim and understood the terminology Allahu Akbar, the takbir, Allahu Akbar, Allah is the biggest, the most boundless, or the greatest. What? Right. You know how silly it is for Nusir to go kill somebody? To think that he has the kind of relationship with Allah, that Allah put him in his confidence and said, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to go kill this rabbi because he causes too much trouble. Do you know what you're doing? You're making Allah look like he doesn't have the power to do it. And Allah can do. You understand what I'm saying? So you got people that get trained in their spirit and their soul to hurt people like me. Because I can't do that, so I said, hey, I promised y'all that I was going to take y'all to Egypt, right? And I know it could be dangerous, so I took Egypt to y'all. I don't know if anything is wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
But I'm saying that for a reason. But it can cause me to violate the law. That's why I said unintentionally. You may not want to hurt nobody, but they try to hurt your family. They try to take your stuff. I'm not telling you by saying don't violate the law. I'm not telling you become no chump. Defend yours. That's what the Constitution tells you. And if you're not satisfied, you raise up and form your own militia. But it must be well regulated. Don't get no bunch of kooks putting on no uniform, running around with no AK-47s and blowing up innocent people. That is not the way to do it. There is a way to get your point across, and it's by the mind, not by weapon and death. It's by love. It's by concern. It's by compassion. Something has been strained out of us when they were shaking the spaghetti. We think it's cool to be uncompassionate. We think it's cool to be tough and uncaring and unconcerned about the children and the women in the future. And that's not real. Love really does conquer all. Whenever you are met with racism, don't respawn with racism. Respond with love. And you say, come on, man, that's something like Dr. Martin Luther King, man. I'm telling you, there's a whole lot of Europeans that are in the court system, that is in the government, that step up and say, that's not right what you plan on doing. You don't hear about it because you never worked your way up there. We get ready to enact something down in the ghetto and so and so, and there's people up there, Caucasians, say, angels. They say, that ain't right. And they're in there fighting against them, abusing you. But you don't hear about that. You only hear what the media wants you to hear. You only hear about people who's out there to hurt you. They never tell you about anybody trying to help you. When you go to a music concert, most of the time if you're sitting there watching somebody and they're going to sing high, you're waiting to find out if they're going to crack. If they get to the whole show without a mistake, then it has a good concert. The first mistake on the stage, first instrument that goes out, if somebody's rapping, they miss the beat, and nigga messed up. You've been trained to look for the fault. You got to retrain yourself to look past the fault and enjoy the whole show. Also, when it comes to people, you got to be trained again to realize blonde-haired, blue-eyed people have done absolutely nothing to you. And if you went to Scandinavia, you'll find that they're very nice people. But you've been trained by malicious people in government, a man called Hoover, who wanted to cause all this dissension in this country so that they can be depended upon, so they can employ themselves. So in order for me to keep a police force in force and getting grants from the government, I got to keep crime. In order for the FBIs and people like that to exist, they got to keep the chaos that causes them to come into existence. Hell, man, if there wasn't no more problems, police would start shooting each other. In fact, in the last couple of months, they've been shooting each other on television, arresting each other, beating. I saw two cops fighting on television about a month ago. Y'all see that?
Yeah.
Pulled the guy out the car and he started fighting. He's running. Police running down the highway from more police. That's what happens when you give a person a new gun and don't give them nothing to shoot. They load the gun, they clean the gun, they click, 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 they load the gun, they put the bullets in, click, click, click. They go on the street and say, I got to find something to shoot. And they start eventually shooting. That's why I said just step out the way and let evil be evil. Let them do their own devilishment. Stop getting into their world. When you step into their world, you're asking for it. When you go into them clubs where all that evil is at, you're looking for trouble. If there's a shootout and you get hurt, you brought it upon yourself. Shouldn't have been in there. I know a lot of y'all people live far away up north. I don't have anything against hip-hop or my sons being in there as long as I know they're coming home in one piece. I don't mind you going and have some fun of your music. I remember when I was coming up, and some of you old fogies in there like me, when we was coming up, they were telling us the music we were listening to. Why y'all listening to that garbage? And at the time, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. We was turning the volume up. We got to 10 on the volume. We was turning, thinking if we turn the knob, if we're not stripping the inside, but we keep turning just because the knob is going, it's getting loud. You turn, next thing you know, the knob don't turn no more. And our father was saying, cut that down. You gonna go deaf, boy? You crazy? He said, what do y'all know? Well, now we think we're doing the same thing. That damn hip-hop music, them people, they got their thing. Okay. You don't understand that thing, man? You don't take it away from them, because if you take it away from them, you better give them something just as exciting. Okay. Something else to do with themselves. Okay. Otherwise, like the police with the guns who don't know what to do, they start shooting each other. Okay. So we got to create an environment out here for the hip-hop generation.
Dr. Malachi, what about the War Powers Act in respect to our sovereignty? Should it hit the fan?
Well, first of all, the main thing you must remember about the word sovereignty, and there's an international sovereignty community, right? Indigenous people. You automatically have it. You don't have to tell or ask anybody for it. Indigenousness is already there. You are it. Because they said Columbus came here, right? And somebody was here, and they didn't know the people who was here when they got here. There ain't but one thing for you to say. You know what that is? I remember when y'all came here. You understand what I'm trying to say? I remember when Columbus and boys, y'all remember when you boys came here, we were sitting there watching y'all come to shore on them boats. Insofar as they admit every day in the educational system that when they came here, you were already here. The game is for you to grab miscomplacent nationalities. You know what I mean by that? For you to say, I am Panamanian. So Panama is your country? You had nothing to do with America or Africa? I am, Cuban. I am Dominican. I am African Nigerian. I am, Ghana. I'm Ashanti. They like that. You understand what I'm saying? Because then you lose the rights to the land here. And it doesn't make sense to live here and promote another nationality. You know what I'm saying? If you live here, then you should be promoting this as your national origin. And again, I repeat, for those who are listening to me, and in view of the fact that they themselves say, we only came here on the Mayflower, and when we got here, we encountered people, Native Americans. And in Columbus's diaries, he also describes Native Americans, Latinos, and Africans that were here when he got here. Now, if you want to out here say, well, I'm from Puerto Rico, I'm from Puerto Rico, and they go, fine. You say, wait a minute, I'm from here, and then I went to Puerto Rico. I was here first, then we went there and set up Puerto Rico. So that's my and this, and we did this while you were still running from rats. Doing the black plague. You know what I'm saying? Before you even got over here, we was already here.
Okay. But Doc, what about the War Powers Act?
Talk to me.
With FEMA.
It don't mean nothing to us if we don't fall under the 13th Amendment. Because then, if we identify with the treaties made with George Washington and the Moors that came here, they are violating international law by attacking us. They can fly around, they can do anything they want. FEMA is as effective as we let it become. You follow that? And if enough of us wake up, we won't join organizations that are set on destroying the country like FEMA. When it says we're going to corral Americans and abuse them, that is anti-American. You must go back to the root of that thought. Why would any organization say we're going to corral Americans of all races, they didn't say about no black or white, and abuse them? It's got to be rooted in anti-Americanism. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
It's the paramilitary mind. And when you go into any military men here, anybody who's in the military, they train you that that's a separate society. You are in a new community. The military community is its own military, it's its own world. We have our own government, our own laws. This is what's put into you. Well, that entity is now fed up with the secular community and feel that they could better run the country by force. And they're justifying it by creating all the militia. Most of the men that belong to these militia groups are ex-military men who feel like the system I lived under while in the military, that was how things should be ran. The guy up there said, stand up, everybody stand up. He said, sit down, we sat down. He said, turn right, we turn right. He said, turn left, we turn left. That's how it should be done, because there's order there. There's no chaos. Nobody. Now I'm talking to me, you, and everybody. No one man got a monopoly on how to solve the whole problem. And any man that stands up and tells you he got a monopoly on how to solve all the problems, that nigga is a problem. You understand? More. When your baby is born and asks you a nationality, Moor. Moor is a legal nationality in America. Has anybody here traveled to Morocco?
No.
You did? Did you need a visa? Okay. Well, you probably know that Morocco is the only Islamic country you can go to where you don't need a visa.
What about Algeria?
Now, why? Now, if you don't believe me, what am I going to tell you? And I want y'all, don't feel, no, Pop, I ain't got to check out. I want you to check it out. I want you to be firm. Why is Morocco the only Islamic country that you don't need a visa for? Because Morocco was made a part of America with a treaty.
Wow.
Dar Bedar means the White House. The government seat of America was ruled by Moroccans, sultans, before it was ruled by the British.
Teach that.
It was ruled by Moors.
Teach that.
Benjamin Bannegan was a Moor.
Teach.
The first president was who?
Answer.
John Hanson, not George Washington.
Teach that.
Don't believe me. I got it in that book again, I explained it. You were Moors and you ruled this government. And you had a peaceful government. The Native Americans were Moors. In that book I show you the Native Americans wearing the symbol. The squash blossom is what they call the crescent and the six-pointed star. There's pictures of it in the book where the chiefs all wear it. Why? Because of the mesh between the Latino and the Moor, and the Latino Moor. Ruling here in peace. It was a beautiful place. It is not, I repeat, anybody that tells you that America is the poor part of the planet Earth is a confused idiot. More. When I ask you what are you, say more. I say, where you was born? I was born in Carolina, Puerto Rico, but I'm still more. You understand what I'm saying? They have check, other. You saying like that? Then you see where it says black or Negro?
Cross that out.
Where it says black or Negro, you cross it out and write more. And if they ask you about it, say George Washington. George Washington rode a white horse to Washington.